I work at a vet clinic, and a woman came in with a very sickly-looking cat. The poor thing was losing hair and had zero energy. When I asked about the diet, she proudly stated she feeds him a strict vegan diet of sweet potatoes and kale. I tried to explain to her that cats are obligate carnivores and they physically cannot survive without taurine found in meat. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "We are a vegan household and he needs to respect our moral choices." We had to get animal control involved. A guy brought in his golden retriever who was vomiting profusely. We did an X-ray and found a massive blockage in the stomach. It turns out the owner had been feeding the dog corn on the cob as a healthy treat, but didn't realize the dog was eating the cobs whole. When we told him the surgery would cost around $2,000, he got angry and asked, "Can't you just give him a laxative and let him pass it?" I had to explain that a rigid 3-inch corn cob is not going to just pass through the intestine. I used to be a dog groomer. A lady brought in a Shih Tzu that was essentially one solid walking mat of fur. You couldn't even see the dog's skin. I told her the only humane thing to do was a full shave down because brushing would be torture. She started screaming at me, "Do not shave him. He looks ugly with short hair. Just cut out the knots." I refused service. She left a 1-star review saying I was lazy because I wouldn't spend 6 hours detangling a neglected dog. The owner brought in a bulldog that was struggling to breathe and had collapsed. It was a hot July day, about 95 degrees out. I asked if he had done any heavy exercise recently. He said, "I took him for a 5-mile run behind my bike to get him in shape." I was flabbergasted. Bulldogs already have breathing issues, and forcing one to sprint in scorching heat is a death sentence. He genuinely thought he was being a good fitness influence on the dog. The dog survived, but barely. We had a client come in with a male cat that had a weird rash on his belly. The vet took one look and realized the woman had been trying to scratch off the cat's nipples. She had been at it for weeks, thinking they were ticks or warts. She was absolutely horrified when we explained that male mammals also have nipples. The poor cat had open sores because his owner failed basic biology class. She bought him a bunch of toys as an apology, but still. I work at a pet store in the aquatic department. A mother came in with her son wanting to buy a goldfish. She picked out a tiny half-gallon bowl. I explained that goldfish produce a lot of waste and grow huge, so they need at least a 20-gallon tank with a filter. She rolled her eyes and said, "It's just a fish. It only grows to the size of the container. If it dies, we'll just buy another one for 50 cents. I told her I wasn't allowed to sell her the fish. She demanded to speak to the manager, who thankfully backed me up. A couple brought their puppy in for a checkup. The puppy had severely bowed legs and looked malnourished. We asked what they were feeding him. They said, "We read online that dog food is full of chemicals, so we only feed him raw chicken breast and rice." They were completely missing out on calcium and essential vitamins. The puppy had rickets. They were literally deforming their dog's skeleton because they trusted a blog post over actual nutritional science. We had to put him on supplements immediately. I had a client call the emergency line at 2 a.m. because her dog was bleeding from the mouth. She was hysterical. I told her to come in immediately. When she arrived, the dog was wagging his tail, happy as a clam. I looked in his mouth. His gums were fine. His tongue was fine. I wiped his mouth with a gauge. It was red dye. She had given him a red velvet cupcake wrapper to play with. She paid the $150 emergency fee and left in shame. A woman brought in her hamster, claiming it was depressed and lonely, so she bought another hamster to keep it company. She put them in the same small cage. Surprising absolutely no one who knows anything about hamsters, they fought viciously. She came in with one hamster missing an ear and the other with a bitten leg, screaming, "Why didn't they become friends?" I had to explain that Syrian hamsters are solitary and will fight to the death. She called the hamsters ungrateful. We saw a dog with a severe flea infestation. I mean, the poor thing was anemic because the fleas were draining so much blood. The owner refused to buy the prescription flea prevention we recommended because it was too expensive. Instead, she told us she sprays the dog with a mixture of vinegar and garlic water because it's natural. We had to explain that garlic is toxic to dogs and vinegar does absolutely nothing for fleas. She accused us of just wanting her money. An owner brought in a beautiful macaw parrot. The bird was plucking out its own feathers and was wheezing. The owner smelled like an ashtray. I asked if he smoked inside the house. He said, "Yeah, I smoke in the living room where the bird cage is." Birds have incredibly sensitive respiratory systems. He was slowly poisoning his bird with second-hand smoke. When I told him he had to stop smoking near the bird, he said, "Well, I'm not going outside in the winter," and asked if there was a pill for the bird instead. I work at an animal shelter. We had a family return a dog after 3 days. Their reason? He doesn't match the new couch we just bought. I wish I was joking. They literally returned a living, breathing animal because of interior design aesthetics. We blacklisted them from ever adopting from us or our partner shelters again. The dog was a sweet black lab mix. He was adopted a week later by a family who didn't care about their colour scheme. A lady brought in her poodle for a routine checkup. The dog's nails were so long they had curled all the way around and were growing into the paw pads. It was infected and clearly painful. The dog was limping. When the vet confronted her, she said, "Oh, I know, but he cries when I try to cut them, so I just don't do it because I don't want to upset him." You are the adult. Being a pet owner means doing things they don't like for their own health. A guy came in with a stray cat he found and wanted to get it checked out and vaccinated so he could keep it. He had it wrapped in a towel. The receptionist peeked inside the towel and immediately screamed. It was a juvenile raccoon. The guy was arguing, "No, it's just a weird-looking breed of cat." We had to explain that it is illegal to keep wildlife, and no, we cannot give rabies vaccines to a wild raccoon. He was genuinely heartbroken. We had a client who refused to heartworm test or prevent. She claimed heartworms were a myth invented by pharmaceutical companies to sell pills. She lived in the deep south, where mosquitoes are everywhere. 2 years later, she brings the dog in coughing up blood and collapsing. The dog was infested with heartworms and in heart failure. She sobbed and asked us to save him, but the damage was too severe. It was entirely preventable. A woman brought in her female dog who was looking very round. She said, "I think she has a tumour in her stomach." We did an ultrasound. It wasn't a tumour, it was 6 puppies. The dog was very pregnant. The owner was shocked. "That's impossible, I keep her in the backyard." I asked if the male dog she also owned was neutered. She said, "No, but they are brother and sister. They wouldn't do that." I had to explain that dogs do not have taboos. I work as a vet tech. A guy came in with a husky in the middle of summer in Texas. The dog was suffering from heat stroke. The owner said, "I don't understand, I shaved him so he would be cool." He shaved a double-coated dog. The fur insulates them from heat as well as cold. By shaving him, he removed the dog's ability to regulate temperature and exposed his pale skin to severe sunburn. People need to research breeds before they get them. A client brought in a bearded dragon that couldn't move its back legs. It had severe metabolic bone disease. We asked about the lighting in the tank. The owner said, "Oh, I just put the tank near the window so he gets sunlight." Glass filters out the UV rays that reptiles need to process calcium. The poor lizard's bones were basically turning to rubber. We had to explain that he needed a specific UVB bulb, not just window light. The owner thought the bulbs were a scam. Someone brought in a rabbit that had stopped eating. Rabbits have to eat constantly or their gut stops working. GI stasis. The owner said, I ran out of hay 3 days ago, so I've just been giving him lettuce. Rabbits need 80% of their diet to be hay. Lettuce has almost no nutritional value for them. The rabbit was in critical condition. The owner was annoyed that she had to pay for emergency care because it's just a rabbit, they eat anything in cartoons. I had a frantic call from an owner saying her dog was foaming at the mouth and shaking. She thought he had rabies. I asked what happened right before this started. She said, I was brushing his teeth. I asked what toothpaste she used. She said, Colgate whitening. She used human toothpaste with fluoride and xylitol, which is toxic to dogs. She poisoned her own dog, trying to give him a bright smile. We induced vomiting and he was okay, but wow. A woman came in with her cat, complaining that the cat was urinating on her bed and clothes. She was fed up and wanted to euthanize the cat for behavioral issues. I asked how many litter boxes she had and how often she cleaned them. She said, I have 1 box in the basement and I change the litter once a month. Once a month? Imagine using a toilet that hasn't been flushed in 30 days. The cat wasn't bad. The cat was desperate for a clean spot. A young couple brought in a pit bull puppy with cropped ears that looked infected. The cuts were jagged and uneven. The vet asked who did the procedure so he could report them. The guy got quiet and admitted he did it himself with kitchen scissors and vodka. He wanted the dog to look tough. The vet was furious. We had to perform reconstructive surgery to save the ears and reported the guy for animal cruelty. The puppy was seized. We had a regular client who was obsessed with essential oils. She came in because her cat was lethargic and drooling. She told us she had been diffusing tea tree oil and peppermint oil right next to the cat's bed to help his aura. Many essential oils are highly toxic to cats and dogs. She was slowly poisoning her pet with her aromatherapy. When we told her to stop, she argued that natural things can't hurt animals. An owner brought in a very fat Labrador. The dog weighed 110 lbs when he should have been 70 lbs. The owner claimed, he barely eats. I think he has a thyroid problem. We ran the tests. Thyroid was fine. We asked her to describe his daily routine. She finally admitted, well, he gets his bowl of food, and then my husband gives him the crusts from his toast, and he gets a dental stick, and maybe a hot dog if he's good. She was feeding him 2,000 calories a day. I work at an emergency vet. A guy came in with a dog that had a huge, gaping wound on its side. He said it happened 3 days ago when the dog got caught on a fence. I asked why he waited so long. He said, I didn't have the money until payday, so I just put some duct tape over it to keep it closed. When he pulled the tape off, the smell was indescribable. The infection was severe. Duct tape is not a medical supply. A woman brought in a tiny Chihuahua puppy she had just bought from a breeder in a parking lot. She was concerned because the puppy slept too much. The puppy was actually hypoglycemic and barely conscious. She said, the breeder told me teacup Chihuahuas only need to eat every other day so they stay small. That is a lie used to starve dogs into stunted growth. We had to rush glucose into the poor thing immediately. A client brought in a snake with severe burns on its belly. The owner had put a hot rock heater in the enclosure. Those things are notorious for malfunctioning and getting way too hot, but pet stores still sell them. The snake doesn't realize it's burning until it's too late. The owner said, I thought he liked it because he never moved off of it. He wasn't moving because he was cooking. We had to treat the burns for months. We had a Great Dane come in with a twisted stomach, bloat. This is a life-threatening emergency. We rushed the dog to surgery. While in the waiting room, the owner was loudly complaining on the phone about how the dog chose the worst time to get sick because she had a nail appointment. After we saved the dog's life, she complained about the scar on his stomach because she wanted to show him in competitions. Zero gratitude, zero concern for the dog's pain.